are you in your feminine energy, slow-living, Skinnytok era? If you spend any time online, you probably have heard at least one of these terms recently. And while at first they don't look like anything new, the resurgence highlights a growing trend of conservative thinking among young people in the online space. I use the word conservative loosely, but we can understand it to include a focus on maintaining or returning to traditional values, institutions, and customs, including a focus on family values and modesty among others. Obviously, anyone can choose to lead their lives like they want to, but what I want to talk about in this video is how these values have been repackaged in a way that appeals to younger, chronically online audiences. Also in a way that creates a binary between these values and opposing ones. In this binary, these conservative values are presented as self-care, more mature, more objective, overall better, while the others are inherently worse. And it is here where they can become a bit problematic. The old money aesthetic has been popular on and off for about 2 years now, but still continues to grow. It started as a relatively harmless aesthetic, like so many others, but seems to have reached a point where it brought back a narrative that dictates people's value based on how they dress. That is because this old money aesthetic is often based on conformity and traditional values, which include not showing too much skin, wearing acceptable or muted colors, as well as being groomed or polished in a very specific and narrow standard. I've come across so many videos which highlight this binary between elegant and vulgar, especially when it comes to women's outfits, but also general appearance, including hair, nails, and body. A lot of brands adopted this shift in style. The recent Fashion Week featured predominantly dark colors and serious looks, as well as more boxy and modest silhouette. On the fast fashion side as well, perhaps the most obvious shift everyone has been talking about is the rebrand of Pretty Little Thing. A brand built its whole identity on a party aesthetic with usually tight and revealing clothes, has now attempted to appeal to this old money aesthetic, completely changing its logo, style, and clothing. Again, the problem arises because it seems like it's not just an aesthetic to explore anymore, but it becomes intrinsically tied to our values, encouraging conformity and disvaluing people who don't conform. In addition, it's an aesthetic that's rooted in exclusivity and traditional gender roles, as well as race dynamics. Regarding Pretty Little Thing's recent rebrand, one creator on TikTok asked the brand, "Where does that leave black and brown women, which you used so much when you were first starting advertising your brand?" Which was about the BBL aesthetic, the curves, and looking street. This binary between elegant and vulgar, combined with the rise of the old money aesthetic, has also contributed to the trendification of our bodies, where a new narrative has emerged in which skinny is considered elegant and expensive and curvy is considered cheap. This is definitely not a new narrative, and I'm not sure it ever fully went away, but it's becoming more obvious than ever in recent times. Just if we look at celebrities, which have started removing their BBLs as well as jumping on the Ozempic weight loss drug, in general going back to a much skinnier aesthetic. It seems in the online space, the narrative has changed, and I'm seeing so many more videos talking negatively about the body positivity movement, instead highlighting the benefits of being slim, while correlating plus-size people to a lower class and lower social value in general. But why do I correlate skinny with conservative? I saw this quote a while ago that said that every time women get too powerful, the skinny trend re-emerges to keep us all too tired to create or to vote. It's definitely an exaggeration, but there is some truth in the way this new trend impacts us. This movement generally brings women in competition with each other. It recenters our appearance based on the male gaze, and it has such a strict criteria for what an acceptable appearance is, that it proves to be very exclusionary. For example, a common narrative I've seen promotes the idea that rich men prefer skinny girls. Just this small statement is so damaging, because it centers our value based on how we appear to men. It creates competition between women, suggesting that one woman's value is inherently based on another's lack of value, and it links any other body type to a lower social class. It's no news that TikTok is obsessed with self-care. 20-step skincare routines, LED masks, meditation. Self-care can mean a lot of different things to different people. And it's generally a positive thing, allowing us to unwind and feel our best. In this video, I'm mainly focusing on when the term is used in relation to our physical appearance. Firstly, the term self-care inherently implies that anything opposite to it is bad for us, and has been weaponized to be synonymous with some moral high ground, with people proudly saying that they'd rather stay home and do self-care than go out with their friends, go clubbing, or go dating. I think this article from Days perfectly summarizes this extreme. The reason why I find it problematic is because it's been repackaged to suggest, especially to women, which are the majority taking part in this trend, that home is where we should want to be, because only there are we fulfilled and fully taking so-called care of ourselves. In addition, it can very easily reduce women's hobbies to only be related to how we look and what we consume, which again is a narrative that was used for far too long to minimize or devalue women's capacity to do anything. I know the boss babe movement in the 2010s was the opposite extreme of this, and that was problematic in its own way. But we should be more careful about the way we internalize this self-care, soft living narrative without understanding their underpinning values. Going beyond just hobbies but to a way of living, the idea of feminine energy or divine feminine is the spirituality that runs through our everyday lives as girls and women. In essence, it suggests that women have this innate power of knowing or feeling something, in contrast to men who don't and have to actively learn and develop it. And while it feels empowering on the surface, it just places us in a binary where women are inherently passive while men are active, ideas that were used to devalue women throughout history. It becomes even more problematic when it's used as dating or life advice. I've seen narratives that would suggest we should date men that allow us to be in our divine feminine, which in essence is just repackaged traditional family values, where the man is the active provider and the woman is passive and nurturing. The problem is not people who choose this kind of relationship. The problem comes when it's made into a trend that suggests that we cannot be happy until we tap into our feminine energy, often understood as that of being passive in relation to a man. In the end, I believe everyone is free to choose what values they follow, but I believe it's important to notice when these values, which have historically been exclusionary, are now being trendified and repackaged to appeal to a new generation, undoing progress that has been made, and in particular, a nuanced approach to life that doesn't have to follow strict and exclusionary rules.